Most people think memory loss starts when you forget a name. It often does not. It starts when you turn the television up another 2 clicks. When you wake up 3 times a night and tell yourself, that's just aging. When you walk a little slower to the mailbox and don't notice. When one bill gets paid late, then another, and you laugh it off as being busy. Here's what most people get wrong. The brain usually whispers before it screams. And I want you to remember one number, 48. In a major hearing study, older adults at higher risk who received treatment for hearing loss showed 48% less cognitive decline over 3 years. 48. That is not a small number. So if you believe your everyday habits are harmless, stay with me. Because some of the most ordinary things you do every day can quietly tell you your memory is under strain long before you ever call it memory loss. This is not about occasionally misplacing your keys. This is about whether you keep your independence, whether you can manage your medications without help, whether you can follow a conversation in a noisy restaurant, whether you can carry your own groceries, drive to a familiar place without that flicker of uncertainty, and remember why you walked into the kitchen in the first place without feeling that cold little stab of doubt. Because when memory begins to slip, it rarely lives alone. It reaches into balance, judgment, sleep, hearing, mood, money, confidence. It changes how you move through a room. It changes how safe you are at home. It changes whether other people start quietly stepping in to do things you used to do yourself. And once that process begins, many families realize the first clues were there years earlier. They just didn't recognize them for what they were. That is why this conversation matters. Not to scare you, to protect you. My name is Dr. William. I'm a physician, and for more than 15 years, I've worked with older adults and families, dealing with the very earliest signs of cognitive change. Long before a formal diagnosis is ever made, I've spent those years in exam rooms, hospitals, follow-ups, and difficult family conversations. And I have also followed the peer-reviewed research on aging, brain health, hearing, sleep, mobility, and prevention closely. I'm not here to sell you a supplement or scare you into a course. I'm here to give you the kind of careful, science-backed explanation many people never get in a rushed appointment. And I need to say something important at the start. One sign by itself does not mean you have dementia, not even close. But patterns matter, clusters matter, change over time matters. And stay with me until the end, because the sign that surprises people most is number 4. It is not forgetting words. It is not losing your keys. It is your nose. A fading sense of smell can show up years before obvious memory trouble, and most people never connect the dots. Before we go further, if you're comfortable, put your age in the comments, or put the age of the person you're worried about. 67, 74, 82, I read every single comment, and seeing those numbers reminds people they are not walking through this alone. And if this channel helps you make sense of your health with calm, honest information, consider subscribing. Not for me, for the small decisions that protect your future. Before I give you the 5 silent signs, let me teach you the 3 mechanisms I want you to keep in mind. If you understand these, the whole list will make more sense. Mechanism 1. Sensory strain. Your brain depends on clean input from the outside world. Hearing, smell, sight, touch. When the input gets weak, your brain has to spend more energy decoding the signal instead of storing it, organizing it, and using it. Think of your brain like a receptionist taking phone calls all day. If every caller sounds muffled, the receptionist becomes exhausted just trying to understand the message. Mechanism 2, overnight cleanup. While you sleep, your brain runs a cleaning system called the glymphatic system. That sounds technical, but in plain language, it is your brain's night shift janitorial crew. It helps clear waste products and supports memory consolidation, meaning the brain files away what matters and prunes what does not. Fragmented sleep interrupts that cleanup. Mechanism 3, executive control. This is the part of your brain that helps you plan, sequence, judge, and stay on track. Think of executive function like the conductor of an orchestra. Memory is one section, balance is another, paying bills is another, walking smoothly while holding a conversation is another. If the conductor starts missing cues, the whole performance gets sloppy before the audience even understands why. Those are the 3 big ideas: strained input, poor cleanup, and slipping executive control. Now let's go sign by sign. Number 1, none treated. Hearing LSS, when hearing gets dull, your brain does not simply hear less. It works harder, constantly. It uses extra mental energy to fill in missing sounds, especially consonants, which carry the sharp edges of speech. Think of a conversation like a jigsaw puzzle. If several pieces are missing, your brain keeps guessing the picture. That effort steals resources from memory, attention, and processing. Speed. This is why people sometimes say, "My memory is awful," when part of the problem is actually that they never fully heard the information in the first place. A landmark randomized trial called AC followed 977 adults ages 70 to 84 with untreated hearing loss. In the higher risk group, hearing intervention slowed cognitive decline by 48% over 3 years. In a separate Danish cohort study of 573,088 people, hearing loss was linked to a 7% higher dementia risk overall, and the risk was higher in people with hearing loss who were not using hearing aids than in those who were. That is not a small number. Let me tell you about someone I'll call Marlene, 72 years old, from Phoenix. Her daughter insisted she see me because Marlene kept asking people to repeat themselves and then blamed her bad memory when she answered questions incorrectly. She had the TV so loud that the windows seemed to buzz. What she noticed most was not confusion. It was fatigue. By evening, after church lunch or a family visit, she felt wrung out. We treated the hearing loss, not overnight, not magically, but within weeks she was following conversations again, interrupting less, smiling more, and making fewer memory mistakes that were really missed inputs. That is the consequence if you ignore this sign. You may label the wrong problem, and your brain pays the price. So what should you do instead? If you are turning the television up more than everyone else, struggling in restaurants, asking "what?" multiple times a day, or feeling mentally drained after conversations, schedule a formal hearing test within the next 30 days. If hearing aids are recommended, wear them long enough to judge them fairly. Not for 20 minutes, not just when guests visit. Aim for 8 to 10 hours a day for at least 4 to 6 weeks while your brain readjusts to fuller sound input. Also ask about earwax, medication effects, and background noise strategies. Synergy tip. Pair better hearing with more social time. Conversation is brain exercise. Hearing support plus regular social interaction is like giving your brain both the microphone and the rehearsal. Number 2, fragmented sleep. This is different from simply not getting enough hours. When your sleep is repeatedly broken, your brain loses deep, restorative stretches. That matters because deep sleep is when the brain does some of its best repair work. Think of deep sleep like the overnight cleaning crew in a museum. If the crew keeps getting interrupted every 15 minutes, the floors stay sticky, the glass stays smudged, and yesterday's mess is still there when the doors open again. In a prospective cohort study published in Sleep, researchers followed 737 community-dwelling older adults without dementia for up to 6 years. Higher sleep fragmentation was associated with an increased risk of Alzheimer's disease, and a 0.01 increase in sleep fragmentation was linked to a 22% faster annual rate of cognitive decline. People with highly fragmented sleep had about a 1.5-fold risk of developing Alzheimer's compared with those with low fragmentation. Let me tell you about someone I'll call Robert, 69 years old, from Street, Lewis. He came in because he felt foggy every morning, not sleepy, foggy. He would stand at the coffee maker, beans grinding, and lose track of whether he had already added water. His wife said he was waking just for a minute 4 or 5 times a night. To him, those wake-ups barely counted. To his brain, they counted a lot. We screened him for sleep apnea, reviewed his medications, and rebuilt his sleep schedule. Morning light, earlier dinner, less alcohol near bedtime, fewer nighttime awakenings. Within 2 months, he was sharper by noon, more steady on his feet, and making fewer simple errors. Here is the part that should concern you most. Many older adults normalize terrible sleep because they are still technically in bed for 7 or 8 hours. But your brain cares about continuity, not just clock time. So what should you do instead? For the next 2 weeks, do 4 things. First, keep your wake time fixed, even on weekends. Second, get 10 to 15 minutes of outdoor morning light within an hour of waking. Third, Cut off caffeine by noon. Fourth, avoid alcohol within 3 hours of bedtime. And if you wake up 3 or more times most nights, snore loudly, gasp, nap excessively, or feel morning headaches, ask your physician about sleep apnea screening. That is especially important after 65. Synergy tip. Number 2 works beautifully with number 3. Better sleep makes you steadier on your feet. More daytime walking improves nighttime sleep. The brain loves loops that help rather than hurt. Number 3, slower walking speed. Yes, walking speed. Because memory does not live only in your head. It shows up in your body. Walking is not automatic the way most people think it is. Smooth walking requires timing, attention, balance, planning, and coordination between the frontal lobes, deeper movement circuits, and sensory feedback from your feet and joints. Think of walking like a marching band moving through a narrow street. If the drummer loses the beat and the horn section comes in late, the whole formation gets messy fast. That is why slower walking, especially when paired with subtle mental slowing, can be an early warning sign that the brain's executive systems are under strain. A large study in JAMA Network Open analyzed data from 16,855 older adults in the ASPREE trial. Researchers found that people with a dual decline in gait speed and memory had the highest future dementia risk. In fact, the combination of worsening walking speed and worsening memory performance predicted dementia better than either one alone. Government researchers summarizing the study put it plainly. Regularly testing both gait speed and memory may help identify at-risk patients earlier. Let me tell you about someone I'll call Elena, 76 years old, from Tampa. She did not come to see me for memory. She came because she felt off balance when I hurry. Her granddaughter had also noticed that Elena paused before stepping off curbs, as if her body needed an extra instruction. Elena could still cook, still dress herself, still tell stories. But when we looked closely, her walking had slowed, and so had her ability to do 2 things at once. That mattered, because the brain often loses efficiency before it loses identity, the consequence of ignoring. This sign is not just future memory trouble. It is falls, fractures, lost confidence, and a shrinking life. People start going out less because they do not feel steady. Then activity drops, then sleep worsens, then isolation grows. One problem recruits another. So what should you do instead? First, notice change, not perfection. If you feel you are walking more slowly than you did 6 or 12 months ago, or loved ones are waiting for you more often, pay attention. Second, build a weekly mobility routine. 20 to 30 minutes of brisk walking, 5 days a week, 2 days a week of strength work, especially legs and hips, 10 chair stands twice a day, using a sturdy chair, a medication review if you take anything sedating, dizzying, or blood pressure lowering. And if you notice slowed walking plus new forgetfulness, get both checked together, not separately, together. Synergy tip. Hearing affects balance and sleep affects gait. So if number 1 and number 2 are off, number 3 often follows. If this is helping you, this is the moment to subscribe and share this video with one person you love, because many seniors are not getting this level of explanation in a 10-minute appointment, and families miss these signs all the time, not because they do not care, but because no one taught them what the signs actually look like. If you know someone who keeps saying, "I'm fine, I'm just getting older," send them this, quietly, kindly. It may help more than you realize. Number 4, a fatting sensey OF smell. This is the one many people never expect. Your sense of smell is wired into some of the same brain regions involved in memory and emotion, including structures close to the hippocampus, which is the brain's memory filing center. Think of smell like an old-fashioned smoke alarm, connected to the same electrical panel as your memory lights. When one circuit starts flickering, the other may not be far behind. That does not mean every stuffy nose is a brain disease. It does mean persistent smell loss deserves respect. In a longitudinal study of 2,906 older adults in the National Social Life, Health, and Aging Project, researchers found that older adults with olfactory dysfunction had more than twice the odds of developing dementia over 5 years, and nearly 47% of those who later reported a new dementia diagnosis had shown smell dysfunction on testing years earlier. Let me tell you about someone I'll call Harold, 71 years old. From boys, he told me, almost as an afterthought, that coffee didn't smell like much anymore. His wife had noticed he was oversalting his eggs and never commented when onions hit the pan. The kitchen used to be full of that sweet, sharp smell of sautéed garlic. Now it seemed flat to him. My first reaction wasn't fear. It was frustration. Frustration that people are taught to worry only when they forget a name, not when their brain stops registering the world as vividly as it used to. Now, Harold did not receive a dementia diagnosis from that symptom alone, and that is important. But the smell change gave us a reason to look harder, earlier. That is the whole point. So what should you do instead? If you have had a reduced sense of smell for more than 2 to 4 weeks, and it is not clearly from a cold, COVID, severe allergies, or nasal congestion, bring it up with your doctor, ask for a medication review, a nasal exam if appropriate, and cognitive screening if there are other changes too. At home, you can also try smell training twice a day using 4 distinct scents such as coffee, citrus, peppermint, and cinnamon. Smell each for about 20 seconds, calmly and attentively. It is not a miracle cure, but it can help some people retrain the system. And please make sure your smoke detectors are working. Practical. Safety matters. Synergy tip. If smell loss appears alongside sleep disruption or slower walking, do not brush it off as one of those things. Number 5, NW Traubel Witch. Bills, pills, and Rudins. This one is deeply important because it is where brain changes become life consequences. Managing bills, medications, appointments, passwords, and multi-step routines depends heavily on executive function. That means planning, sequencing, working memory, and judgment. Think of executive function like an air traffic controller. One plane is your blood pressure pill, one is your electric bill, one is your appointment next Tuesday. If the controller starts missing handoffs, delays pile up, and the whole system gets risky. This is why repeated late payments, missed doses, double doses, or getting lost in a familiar routine can be more revealing than a dramatic memory complaint. Researchers at Johns Hopkins, using linked Medicare claims and credit data from 81,364 Medicare, beneficiaries living alone found that missed bill payments appeared as early as 6 years before a dementia diagnosis. The elevated risk of payment delinquency accounted for 5.2% of delinquencies 6 years before diagnosis, rising to 17.9% 9 months after diagnosis. That tells us something critical. The checkbook may change before the family uses the word memory. Let me tell you about someone I'll call Gloria, 78 years old, from Cleveland. Her son did not bring her in because she forgot his birthday. He brought her in because she paid the water bill twice, skipped her thyroid medication 3 times in 1 month, and left sticky notes everywhere that no longer seemed to help. Her apartment smelled faintly of lemon cleaner because she had wiped the same counter 3 times, then forgotten she had already done it. She was embarrassed, deeply embarrassed, and that is part of what makes this sign so silent. People hide it. They say, "I'm just distracted. I've got a lot on my mind. The pharmacy changed the bottle." Sometimes that is true, but when the same kinds of mistakes repeat, especially in someone who used to be highly organized, we have to pay attention. So what should you do instead? Start with structure, not shame. Use a weekly pill organizer with morning and evening slots. Set one 20-minute money and meds review on the same day every week. Put essential bills on autopay if possible. Keep one updated medication list in large print. And if late payments or missed doses happen more than twice in a month, or if routines that used to feel automatic suddenly feel mentally sticky, schedule a cognitive review. Bring a trusted family member if you can, not because you are helpless, because good information makes better medicine. Synergy tip. If this sign shows up with hearing strain, broken sleep, or slowed walking, the pattern becomes more meaningful. The brain rarely waves only one flag. I want to end here. When people hear the words memory decline, they often picture only loss, loss of names, loss of skills, loss of self. But medicine is not only about naming loss, it is about defending function, preserving dignity, buying time, reducing risk, protecting the ordinary acts that make a life feel like your own life, carrying your own groceries, remembering your grandchildren's names, paying for dinner without panic, walking into a room and knowing why you came there, laughing at the table because you actually heard the joke. That is what we are fighting for. Not perfection, not eternal youth. Function, clarity, confidence, independence. So if one or more of these signs felt uncomfortably familiar, do not let that become despair. Let it become direction. Because the earlier you respond, the more options you usually have. And because it is never too late. If this kind of honest, science-based guidance helps you, subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you do not miss the next video. And in the comments, tell me this. Which of these 5 signs do you think families overlook the most after 65? Or, if you prefer, just leave your age and one word that describes how your memory feels lately. I read every single comment.